have all of the ingredients laid out right here for this meatloaf. So let me show you everything. I have some brown sugar, I have garlic powder, and I'm using garlic powder because this blends in better with the ground beef mixture. So I'm using powder. I have some ground mustard, some Italian seasoning, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper, ketchup, because I'm gonna make like a brown sugar like topping or glaze to go on top. An onion, I'm gonna chop this finely. 1 egg, ground beef. My filler, I guess you can call this, is oatmeal. Now people use either like panko breadcrumbs, regular breadcrumbs. You can use slices of bread that have been soaked in milk or water. You can use whatever. I'm gonna use old-fashioned oats for this. And then I also have some whole milk. I'm gonna start chopping up my onion. I'm just gonna use half of this onion. So I'm gonna dice it finely so that you don't get really big chunks of onion in every bite. And if you are new here, what I like to do is I keep my, this is my produce bag right here. I cut it open, I just kind of tear it open and I save it for on the side. So I just throw anything that I'm throwing away into that bag, so it just keeps me from having to go back and forth to the trash can. Of course, I could bring my trash can right here, but I mean, this is just a great way to use up those produce bags instead of just throwing them away. Just keep them, use them as a discard pile. I really just love meatloaf so much. My mom made it all the time. I loved it. Now, I know some people do not enjoy like a sweet meatloaf. Some people prefer more like a savory meatloaf. So I would like to know, are you more of a savory meatloaf person or a sweet meatloaf person? All right, so I have my onion all chopped up. I'm gonna chop up some of this parsley that I have from my massive parsley bush in the backyard. It is so beautiful. I can't believe how nice it looks. That is the only thing. Oh, that and sage is growing really good right now. Pretty soon basil is going to be planted, and then I can have that in the backyard so I can make some delicious recipes or pesto. I like making my own pesto sauce when I can. And guys, I am not a classically trained chef or cook or anything. I am just a home cook making food for my family. I probably am not using chopping techniques correct, so don't judge me. But this is how I chop it up, and I'm gonna chop this up pretty finely because I want this to get incorporated into the meatloaf too. All right, I'm gonna put everything in a bowl, mix it up, make a little mound of loaf, a loaf mound into a baking dish, and then top it off with a yummy, yummy glaze. My oven is preheated to 350. I got my ground beef in there. And of course, this is the ground beef I use from Costco. So this is about 1.34 pounds. Now you could definitely do 1.5 pounds, which is what the recipe calls for, but this honestly is gonna be perfect. And again, guys, all exact measurements will be on my blog. Generally, I do not measure anything, but I have to give exact measurements when I make a recipe, but I prefer to not dirty like little measuring spoons and whatnot. It's just like, I don't have time like for that. But again, everything will be measured out in the recipe link down below if you are wanting to try out a new meatloaf recipe. I know that a lot of people like to make their meatloaf in loaf pans, but I want as much fat to come out of the meatloaf as possible. So another way that you can make this, if you don't want the meatloaf sitting in its fat like it is right here, you can take a much smaller like cooling rack and place it inside the baking dish. Just make sure you spray it so that the meatloaf doesn't stick to the rack. And doing it this way allows the meatloaf to sit up and out of the fat. You can see that my meatloaf is in a different baking dish because dinner plans actually changed this night that I made it. So after it cooked completely, I transferred the meatloaf to a clean baking dish, and the next day I reheated the entire loaf by setting my oven at 250 degrees, and I added a tablespoon or so of water on the bottom of the dish, and then I covered it with foil and reheated it for about 25 minutes. Adding the water into the casserole dish helps to kind of steam the meatloaf and not make it dry out. All right, getting ready to make some dinner. I am needing something really quick tonight because I have some plans. So I am going to be making my easy sticky honey chicken. This is a recipe I've been making for a while, and it is so easy to make, very delicious, and it comes together pretty quickly. So let me share all the ingredients. So I have about 4 small-ish chicken breasts. So these are all cut up into about like 1 to 1.5 inch size pieces. Just make sure they're all relatively the same size so that they cook evenly. I have some cornstarch. You're going to need about, I think, like about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup. You kind of have to just eyeball it. I have 2 eggs and then some canola oil, and then you're gonna need a gallon-sized bag. And then for the sauce, really easy, so good. Some sugar, brown sugar, apple cider vinegar, ketchup, some honey, soy sauce, some sesame oil. You're not gonna need much of this. I know this is kind of like a little expensive, but it is essential, and it's, like I said, not that much needs to be used from here. And then some ground ginger. Of course, fresh is best if you have fresh, but I'm just gonna use the powdered stuff because that'll be a lot faster. And then some garlic powder. First thing I'm gonna do first is whisk together the sauce. So I always start out with my sugar, and all the exact measurements are gonna be linked down below for you in a blog post recipe for you guys. And I like to use low sodium soy sauce when I can. All right, this honey is gonna, let's see how well it comes out. There we go, not bad. I'm gonna stir this up real quick before I add in my powders. I'm gonna whisk my eggs in a like pie pan or like 9-inch cake pan, something kind of large and shallow to fit all my chicken, because I'm not working in batches because I have my awesome electric skillet here. So 2 eggs going in. I'm gonna start warming up my electric skillet, and I am a huge fan of this electric skillet. I use it pretty often for breakfasts, and this dish in particular, I will link it in the description box. I think they are still making it. I've had this for a long time. And a reason I really like to use it is because I hate cooking in batches. You know, a lot of recipes say to like cook in batches, but I don't want to do that. I want to like hurry up, get it done, and it's large enough so that I never have to do that. I'm gonna get some oil. I'm gonna use some canola oil into the electric skillet. All right, now let's work on coating the chicken in cornstarch. And all the chicken goes in here. And at this point, you can actually season your chicken too. You don't need to use that much salt because there's quite a bit of salt in the sauce, but I'm still gonna season it with just a little bit of salt and pepper too. All right, so a little bit of salt and pepper. And that'll all mix up together once I coat the cornstarch, once I put the cornstarch in here too. So I usually just eyeball it, just enough to make sure every piece is coated. So let me see exactly how much I use. It's about 1/2 cup right here. Let's just start off with 1/2 cup and see. And go from there. And a little bit more, so it is about maybe 1/2 cup, I would say. I'm probably not gonna need the rest of this. And you're gonna wanna make sure every little chicken piece is coated in the cornstarch, because that's gonna get it really nice and crispy in the skillet. Looks good to me, looks really good. So now we're going to dunk all of this chicken into my eggs, because there's plenty of room. Again, not working in batches here, I don't got time for that. I'm gonna use my hand again, just because I want to make sure that everything looks good. I am going to kind of spread it out a little bit. I don't want any excess cornstarch in here, which is why I'm using my hands, because there's some, you can see kind of some on the bottom of the bag. I don't really want that in there. Okay, and then we're just gonna roll it around in the eggs. So every once in a while I think, oh my gosh, 2 eggs is not gonna do it, but look at how perfectly everything is coated. It's well coated. And my oil should be warm enough to go in, so let's start cooking up this chicken. All right, let's place our chicken in here. And I don't drop it all in, I use my hand again, because it'll go all over the place. Here we go. And I try to separate the pieces as much as I can when I'm laying them down in the oil. All of the chicken is in there. So what I do at this point is I'm gonna let this cook for 3 minutes. Okay, so this has been going for 3 minutes. I haven't touched it. I'm gonna flip it. You can see it's turning golden brown. And personally, I like them sticking together like this because it makes it to turn easier. And we can separate them towards the end. Right, so now I'm gonna let these guys cook for 3 minutes on this side, and then we're gonna add the sauce. All right, 3 minutes are up. I'm gonna just start kind of breaking it up now. It's not fully cooked, so we still need to let it cook a little bit longer. Now I'm going to pour in only half of the sauce. So this is close to about 2 cups of sauce. All right, and I'm going to cover this guy up and let this cook for 5 minutes. So I have 2 minutes left on this, but you can kind of see the mixture bubbling, the sauce bubbling up. That's awesome. And what this is gonna do is it's going to start to caramelize after a little bit and stick and coat to the chicken, which makes it delicious, just so yummy. So 5 minutes is up. You're gonna carefully remove the lid if you're using an electric skillet. All right, and we're gonna toss this all together. And again, start to break up those pieces that are stuck together. Some may think that this is enough sauce, but no, we want sauce. We want it dripping into the rice or the quinoa, or like if you're making chow mein noodles, whatever you're making as a side, you want it dripping into that. So we are gonna throw in the rest of that sauce. And guys, it's just gonna caramelize even more. Also, remember there's vinegar in here, so it's going to make your eyes water if you're like standing right over it. Whew. All right, I'm gonna cover this another probably 5 to 6 minutes. We'll check it after 5 minutes. So it's been another 5 minutes. Let's check this guy out. Oh yeah, starting to caramelize. Really nice, and it's not burnt. So there's probably a little bit of sauce, if you can kind of see it on the bottom, that needs to thicken up and adhere. I'm gonna just cover this up and turn the heat off, and it'll still continue to cook. The chicken is already cooked through because these are pretty small pieces. So I'm gonna cover this and let it sit for probably 2 minutes or so. This recipe is truly one of my go-to recipes when I just don't have time, because I keep all of this stuff in my pantry already. It's stuff I always have on hand. So I know exactly how long it's going to take me, and it's the perfect dish. My kids love it. There's never ever any leftovers, which is unfortunate because everyone asks for like seconds and thirds, which is great. But I really hope that you guys give this recipe a try. And if you do, leave me a comment on the blog post. Tonight I am making something very exciting. It's something I don't get to make that often, and it is Albondigas Mexican meatball soup. I make it usually for Cinco de Mayo, but I think we have plans on that day, so I didn't want to miss out on this recipe, so making it ahead of time. So this is what goes into this. We have some long grain white rice, some zucchini that I chopped up, some carrots. Now you can use bulk like carrots that you can get at the grocery store, but I have baby carrots on hand always, so that's what I'm using. I diced up an entire onion, and that's gonna be divided. I have salt and pepper, and then back there I have some beef broth, some petite diced tomatoes. You can just use regular diced tomatoes too, either way. Some olive oil, then moving down some celery, limes, 1 egg, different seasonings, chili powder, ground cumin, and oregano, fresh cilantro, garlic, some potatoes that I need to dice up. And then to make the meatballs, you're gonna need some ground beef, maybe like 1.5 pounds, or in this case, I'm gonna use what I get from Costco, and that's 1.34 pounds. And then some pork chorizo. So in my latest Costco haul that I just posted, these guys actually come, I thought they were like all unwrapped, but they're wrapped. They're all in plastic wrap, which makes this so much easier. I thought I was gonna have to wrap each one individually, but look at that. So they're already wrapped in plastic. I'm probably just gonna put another wrap around it just to make sure it doesn't get any frostbite, because I'm gonna put these in the freezer. But for this, I'm actually just gonna use half of a package. So this I'm gonna save probably for like chorizo con huevo or something. And then this is all I'm gonna use for the meatballs. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna make the meatballs, because I'm gonna let them chill in the fridge for a little bit. And then we'll continue to make the soup and the broth. All right, so in a bowl, I'm going to add my ground beef and my chorizo. Ground beef, chorizo, 1 egg, the rice, some cilantro. And then I'm just gonna use about 1/4 of that onion that I just chopped up. I'm gonna throw it in there. The rest is gonna be used for the broth. So now I'm gonna mix this all up and form little meatballs. So I need to go get a clean plate. And I'm actually going to mix this up first with a spoon. Okay, so I just wet my hands with some cold water. I'm gonna go in with my hands that are wet and then start to just incorporate it even better. I just wanted the bulk of it to be mixed with a spoon. And the reason you wanna wet your hands with water is so that the mixture doesn't stick as much as if they were dry hands. Throughout the course of making the meatballs, you every once in a while might need to go over, wet your hands a little bit, just to ensure that the meat isn't sticking. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm gonna start rolling them into meatballs. Let me scoot this over. And we're not gonna make them super large. We're not looking for like Italian sized meatballs. Remember, these are gonna be like broiled in the broth, in the soup. So nothing too large, but nothing too small, nothing like Italian meatball soup. So something like in between. We're looking for something the size of like this. So almost the size of a golf ball, maybe a little bit smaller than that. So not too big. So I'm gonna continue to make the rest. All right, all the meatballs are rolled up. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick this guy in the fridge for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna let them firm up because I don't want them to fall apart whenever I go to drop them into the broth. So just about 20 minutes or so should do the trick. To a Dutch oven or like a big pot, I'm gonna add in my olive oil and let that heat up. Into the Dutch oven, I'm gonna put in the rest of my onion, carrots, and celery. And we're gonna saute this up for 5 minutes. My chopped garlic is going in just for a minute. All right, and now I'm gonna throw in all of those spices. So for those that have made it this far in the video, thank you so much for sticking around and watching it. I know it's kind of a longer video. I'm trying to get all my videos under 20 minutes if I can. This one, there was just a lot going on, so I apologize for that. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate all of you guys so very much. And also for those that are new here, definitely subscribe to my channel if you guys like this type of content, and leave me a comment down below of which meal you would like to try next. So this is coming to a simmer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover this and lower the heat and let it cook for about 10 minutes or so, just because I want the potatoes to be soft. They're not gonna be fully cooked yet, but they will cook when the meatballs cook. Alrighty, my timer just went off. I am going to have a little helper over here. He's gonna help me drop the meatballs in. So don't touch, it's really hot. Let me do this first here. I'll show you how to do it. We're gonna drop the meatballs in one at a time. Like that, okay? All right, here you go. I'll let you do a few of them, okay? This is really, really full because I added a little bit more water than usual because of the extra potatoes I added, because I wanted to make sure there was extra just in case for leftovers, because this makes great leftovers. As my meatballs were cold, I need to bring the broth back up to a simmer, and then once it comes back up to a simmer, I am going to lower the heat, cover it, and let it cook for about 20 minutes. I mentioned that I added more potatoes so that I can have it for leftovers. There was no leftovers to be had. That's unfortunate, but that is a good indicator of how good this soup is, guys. It is phenomenal. You absolutely cannot have dinner without dessert. So for dessert this week, I made the best homemade chocolate brownie cake. It is kind of in between a cake and a brownie, so it's not as moist or fluffy as a cake, but it's not as dense as a brownie, so it's kind of in between. I don't use any white sugar, which makes this kind of different and unique. I only use brown sugar, so you get a more like deep molasses taste in the cake, so I really enjoy that. Really good with a cold glass of milk. And if you know me, you know that I absolutely hate dirtying dishes when it's not necessary. So everything is made in one bowl, at least for the cake batter. What I do is I make the cake batter in the saucepan that it's in, and then I go and I wash it so that I can use it for frosting. I just hate using like so many dishes and measuring cups and whisks and everything. So I try to just stick with what I'm using for the cake and then use it for the frosting as well. Another plus of this recipe is that you don't have to wait for the cake to cool down before you frost it. I just want to hurry up and get everything done. I swear I'm not like a rushed person, but I just like to get everything done at once if I'm able to. So that's another reason why I like to make this, is because I can pour this frosting over the cake while it is still warm. Also, if you do decide to make this cake, the frosting is not going to be like a thick frosting that you would find like in a can of frosting if you were to go to the grocery store. It's going to be slightly thin, but once you pour it over the cake, it'll start to firm up and harden. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching this What's for Dinner video. I hope this gives you some inspiration for your next family dinner. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel on your way out. I would really appreciate your support, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.